listening to The Review on the OSG Sports Podcasting Network.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Review. It's the Online Sports Guys College Football Podcast with a whole bunch of stuff for us to talk about because we now know who's going to be in the playoff. As Marty showed us.
You know who ain't either.
Is this where you drop in Jim Mora?
Wow.
Playoffs?
No.
We'll turn the tide on that one.
After a really kind of an interesting weekend of games, we now kind of know our top 12 are the 12 teams that are going to kind of go through a couple of rounds of playoffs before we end up with the championship game January 20th here in OSG Sports home territory of Atlanta. And I guess before we get too deeply into each of these matchups, any surprises other than the obvious one?
That Alabama didn't get in.
They didn't even give Army even the fake, hey, you're kind of deserving.
They're a great story, Marty. Bryson Daly's a fantastic quarterback for the system that they run there at Army, and they've got some talented running backs, and they're tough to play just because they out-execute a lot of people. But
that's the exact bottom of the bracket that I want to see sneak in and make people pucker.
I don't want to know about Army and execute, okay, Phil? Can you kind of
it's kind of what
support your armed services?
Yes, absolutely.
And that's the only game we get to preview for next week.
Yeah,
So,
really.
Phil, are we looking for surprises or observations here?
A little bit of both. I mean, there were
My initial observation was I'm looking at the 4 teams that made it as a bye, and 3 of them are out in the West Coast. Let's think if the Pac-12 would have stayed together. I mean, it would have been epic for them this year.
And you'd have had noon Eastern kickoffs, and they would have been kicking off at 9 a.m.
That's my biggest surprise, Ohio State fan, not getting big noon kickoff.
Yeah.
Thank God.
And I shouldn't be, but I'm a little surprised Arizona State got the bye, but I understand why. It's because when you got exceptional talent like Cam Skattebo, you got to showcase that talent to a national audience, because he may have just gotten himself an invite to the Downtown Athletic Club with his performance against Iowa State yesterday or on Saturday. And also the fact that I think the committee, Arizona State passed the eye test with the committee. They did not have their top receiver in Jordan Tyson, and here they go off and stomp Iowa State, one of the top defenses in the country. I think they passed the eye test, and I think that's one reason why they've moved on to the bye week into the quarterfinals, and they get to come to Atlanta and play in the Peach Bowl.
Mr. Fox, your thoughts?
One thing that was not surprising was that ESPN dragged out the unveiling of the bracket as long as they possibly could.
Well,
I thought that when they had a 4-hour window for the TV broadcast of it, that they would actually wait 2 or 3 hours but I was glad within 30 minutes that they got it done. To me, the observations were that location matters in the conference championship games. If the game for the SEC were in Houston, I think Texas would have won. If the game for the Big 12 were in Dallas, I think SMU would have won. But the opposite happened, and it shook up eventually the way that the playoffs unfolded.
ECC was in Dallas.
Say it again.
ECC in Dallas?
Yes, I'm sorry. The ACC in Dallas. If that were in Dallas, I'm convinced SMU would have won that game.
Don't worry, it could change again next year.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Johnny Nelson, your thoughts?
Like I said, I'm surprised that my hangar of black helicopters was not unlocked for Alabama in and SMU out. Other than that, that really was the only thing on the board. I know that there was a lot of hue and cry about how possibly the team that is up Georgia 316 and won the SEC championship could have had more games at Mercedes-Benz Stadium than they did at home by the end of it all. But it appears that the Clemson wing of the bracket is going to be the Sugar Bowl element of it all. So literally, I was shocked, being the resident conspiratorialist, that Alabama did not get in and SMU did. I was sitting here trying to map out our end of the year s'mores, campfire, and mini golf extravaganza. And so you're saying, Wilkie, that it is now Scadaboo, Pavia, Genty, Travis Hunter, and Bryson Daly. Is that the 5 that we're inviting for s'mores?
Sure, let's invite them. Let's send the invites out. I'll dust off the tux and the black tie, and let's party.
Actually, we're going around a campfire, so you might want to break out the flannel.
Yeah, and so is that the 5 that we're?
I'll ante up and do a little camo.
Okay, so is that the 5 that we're inviting for s'mores and mini golf now at the end of the year?
Sure, send the invitations out.
Okay, just checking.
Marty, your Buckeyes have an interesting matchup with Tennessee coming to the Horseshoe, and the winner faces Oregon. It would be a chance for Ohio State to get their shot at the Ducks again.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. We beat Penn State. They lost by more to a same opponent, and they're still ahead of us. But that's them shuffling it to make the matchups they want to get. The funniest thing I saw, though, was after they did the announcement, Ohio State's official Twitter actually put out a guy breaking chains in the sunlight, and it said Big Noon, breaking the chains of Big Noon. That's going to be loud because all the people in Ohio are going to be able to drink all day long and then go into that game. It'll be really loud. But I got to tell you, weather-wise, that favors Tennessee more than Ohio State.
Well,
with them playing finesse more, and then there's talk about them changing up their offensive line again. Latrell's Bentley sighting this week in Columbus, and he posted something of being inside the facility, and the Buckeye Twitterverse and Blue Skyverse went nuts, saying, "Please tell me you're there for interviews."
So they reacted rationally, as they always do. I give the SMU football Twitter admin a great deal of credit, because they posted the Family Guy episode where they are around the dinner table and the horse comes in the side door and the wife goes, "Peter, the horse is here," and posted that. So the SMU admin was on fire for a good 12 and 14 hours.
I'm shocked they didn't get screwed out of it.
Well, I am too. Absolutely screwed.
I am too, a little bit, but it's hard to argue, even though they did lose that game to Clemson in a little bit of a nail biter. If you hadn't got a chance to see it, the Tigers won on a 55-yard field goal at the buzzer.
And the kid winked to his sideline. Freshman kicker goes out there, lines it up, turns to his sideline, and winked before he hit the kick.
That's confidence.
That's grapefruits, man.
I believe there's a video of a ram that goes around the internet that's going to have his name on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really think if Clemson had blown SMU out of that game, which it looked like might happen in the first half of that game, that we might be having a different conversation here.
Absolutely.
I tend to disagree, because looking at Wade Manuel's comments, the committee chairman, they were more weighing SMU being undefeated in the conference and their losses coming to ranked teams rather than Alabama's, whose losses mainly came from unranked teams.
6 and 6.
So I think SMU, again, maybe the eye test would have had some bearing on the decision, but just read those comments, I tend to think that SMU they had to really screw it up to not get in. It was. I'm sure it was quite a heated debate in that hotel room where they were holed up for this. But it seems like to me,
I was debating driving over there.
And it was just a total chaotic scene, and half the team got injured.
Yeah, Sly, what's on your mind?
To me, SMU wasn't the problem with the whole playoff picture. It was Indiana. to me, if you look at Indiana versus Miami, I think Miami has a real case that who they played and what they did is way better than what Indiana did. And even though I went to a Big Ten school, I do not like the bias toward the league, which is year after year proved to be generally underwhelming when
I
it
totally
really
agree with
matters.
you there too. I think Miami had some quality wins there and some big blowouts against quality opponents. So I'm not sure what the issue is there, other than Indiana is a feel-good story, and the committee is looking at that as a way to generate ratings. Miami to me is a brand name, but
But
are they
Miami's the same
numbers?
team. Yeah, I mean, Miami didn't play play a ranked team the entire season until the end. They went and they lost 2 of their last 3 games, both of which I think is what weighed heavily on the fact that they didn't get in.
And then you got a lot of college football fans that don't live in the South, just sick of them bending over backwards trying to squeeze as many SEC teams into it as they can.
What? No.
Oh, I know. Nobody does it based by what network they play on.
Come on now, comma.
You know what, Marty, if that was really the case, then we would be
Yeah.
talking about Alabama in this.
No,
And
that's why it's such a big surprise to everybody, because they didn't deserve to be in there and they're not. And I mean, that's the biggest shock, is them not doing stupid shit favoring them.
There's the explicit rating out of
And actually having common sense.
no.
yeah. I mean, I know it sounds like a great conspiracy that, oh, they're going to look at the TV, who's the best TV draw before they pick the teams. But in real life, does that really happen? I don't.
Yes.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
Without a doubt.
The NCAA men's basketball tournament, of course it matters.
Look how they arrange the rankings too, and the paths to the
I
through the
think
bracket.
Alabama was in position to get into the playoff before the championship games were played. They were setting them up, and the one thing that had to happen happened to keep them out.
Could you have imagined Alabama and Notre Dame in round number 1 at touchdown Jesus if the black helicopters had helped us out in this particular tournament?
Yeah, I would have mortgaged my house to see that one.
Alabama, Notre Dame, touchdown Jesus, and then that feeds to the Georgia section of the bracket. That would have been okay, and the ratings in that would have been, they would have been doorbusters. Literally, they would have been doorbusters.
You could make the argument, looking at the way these brackets play out, that Georgia might have the easiest path.
Oh, absolutely, they do.
I mean, I'm intrigued by the Indiana Notre Dame matchup just because it's simply a matchup that you don't see very often, and it's the state of Indiana battling against itself. But
It's an in-state
neither of
rivalry.
those teams really have a quality top 10 opponent win.
Sly, I'm waiting for David Rivers and Mike Woodson to go at each other with that.
From Jersey City, New Jersey, David Rivers.
Yes.
But I mean, when things unfolded yesterday, Indiana at Notre Dame was the easiest game to predict that would be matched up. I actually thought SMU at Texas would happen as well. But yeah, I mean, I think it's generated a lot of conversation. You can't go anywhere throughout the week without some sort of controversy being all over the news. I think this first year accomplished exactly what they wanted. They've got a long way to go. And hey, some of these teams who would never have been in consideration for a national title in the years past, all of a sudden they're in it.
Yeah,
That's-
the whole purpose is to get more conferences in.
Well, who would have thought that Arizona State picked to finish last in the Big 12 back in August, gets a bye into the college football playoff?
Oh, that's my favorite
and
part
has
of the
a
whole thing.
Has a shot at a national championship. They're already Big 12 champions. They go from worst at the beginning to first, and now they got a chance to carry the trophy, and they got a legitimate chance. That team I saw against Iowa State, the team I saw against Arizona, could beat anybody right now.
Well, look at Boise State. This is a team that's been pushing on the edge of getting into that 14 playoff for years and didn't get in because of who they are and where they play. And they've got a first round bye.
Well,
Think about the idea that they've got the winner of the SMU Penn State game, and if, say, for the sake of conversation, Penn State wins that game, then all of a sudden you've got the Nittany Lions playing on the Smurf turf.
Big game, James, and the Smurf turf, brother.
No, they wouldn't be playing on the Smurf turf. They'd be playing down in Glendale at the
That's
Fiesta
true.
Bowl.
That's right. Oh man, you took
Oh man,
Sorry, I had to be the bearer of bad news here.
the
for you.
bearer of accuracy on this show. Why are you stealing all
Damn
of
it!
our?
Why do I want to be so accurate?
Damn.
Boise State serves a role in this tournament. They are the Gonzaga of this tournament. Think about it.
that's a good analogy.
Parallels here. Gonzaga, king of the West Coast Athletic Conference, which to me is a damn good basketball league. And but they're always a 1 seed or a 2 seed, and they move on and they collect a lot of checks for that conference. And Boise State's kind of serving that role in this tournament. They've been around since they beat Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl. That's when they became the brand name. And for the last 15 years, they've been there. And now, as we go to this tournament format, they're in. Let's see how far they make a run.
Yeah,
And
nobody wants to face the best
country.
running back in the country.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely not. And the team that you might have a different opinion than I do here, but I think that they might have the toughest path is Oregon.
Yeah.
They do.
You know, there was a lot of talk, I actually discussed with some other Big Ten friends, like maybe they should have took an L against Penn State.
Maybe.
You could take that argument, but how do you deliberately try to lose a game?
Oh, there are ways.
Are you really asking that about college athletics?
How do you convince a coach to actually have his team take an L? Good luck with that.
Oh boy. Oh,
So this brings up the question with Oregon having the toughest path. What's the value of having the number 1 seed? Because if you're the number 1 seed in this tournament, you're taking on either Tennessee or Ohio State, the 8 or 9, on a neutral site.
Zero advantage.
The Rose Bowl, yes.
Yeah.
You got no advantage at all. That game should be played in odds, and I'm wondering. I know that there's a contract involved for a while that you have to use the bowls in the quarters and the semis, and okay, that is what it is. But at the same time, look at Oregon here. That game should be played at odds, and shouldn't they have some kind of advantage?
No.
That being the number 1 seed.
No.
Yeah, I think on down the line that they're going to have the committee and the playoff committee is going to have to address this issue, because I think this might be a big deal, especially if Oregon loses in the quarters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking at next year. There's got to be big consideration for doing the reseed.
Yeah.
I could see where it makes sense to take the New Year's Six bowl game that's closest to where you live, but the way I'm a season ticket holder for the Cotton Bowl, and they've already stamped out and keep buying your tickets. This year you're the semifinal, next year you're the quarterfinal, and that's going to flip flop every other year.
Yeah. So Sly, I was looking at the juice boxes. We already have juice boxes for these. And it is right now, Texas is an 11-point favorite at home. Tennessee is a 7.5-point dog at Ohio State. Penn State is an 8.5-point favorite hosting SMU. And Notre Dame is an 8-point favorite hosting Indiana in the Digger Phelps Bobby Knight extravaganza that we have going on there in round number 1.
God, the Slick brought up a little bit ago. I really would have loved to see Texas and SMU play each other. New money against old money bowl.
Oh my God!
We had before. It was called the Southwest Conference.
Yeah, I know, but Sherwood Blunt and
the intro to that game would have been amazing.
Yeah, there's a frightening amount of
Trans Am driving by the stadium.
What you mean by Southwest Conference?
We call it the Trans A&M.
The Tennessee Ohio State game is interesting. The number's interesting because if things start to go bad for Ohio State early, it would seem, considering what's happened there the past couple of weeks, the murmur. I mean, despite everyone being liquored up to the max by the time the night game hits, the murmurs and then worse might start. And it might be a bad situation for Ohio State playing a home game, considering the
Yeah,
state of things there.
but nobody, I mean, signing day kind of relieved a little bit, but people are still, you need to make a deep run or Mike Vrabel is going to get a huge bag.
Yeah,
There's a-
remember we brought that up in the last episode. If they go out and if they're one and done, does does Ryan Day jump on that carousel quickly?
And they're playing a team. I mean, Tennessee is the type of program that is in the ballpark matching up with them physically.
Yeah. The state
so-
of their line is not great right now.
Yeah, this is
You
a
have,
very
you have
nervous
two
start of
all-conference players that aren't playing on that line.
Yeah,
Yeah, they've
So-
lost a lot of depth on that offensive line.
And then your next best player that's up is playing out of position.
as far as I've been to Penn State many times, living up here, I have a hard time believing, knowing how the atmosphere is going to be at Penn State, that SMU can actually win that game.
Yeah.
Whether they cover or not sure, but they struggled in Charlotte in that environment. I think they're going to struggle at Penn State. It's a really, as you know, really tough place to play.
Their alumni
And-
are going to struggle trying to find a decent hotel that they're used to.
They're going to have to go to Williamsport probably, but
Harrisonburg, driving
No
an hour and a half.
stars in State College.
Yeah. Well, but I will say this: you're gonna, I need a private jet, and you're gonna have all of that heading into the State College Airport. You're gonna have all of that SMU money flying in their private jets into that State College Airport, or Hershey, or Harrison, or Harrisonburg, or Philly, or Pittsburgh, and all points in between. You're just going to see, like, FlightAware is just going to have this convergence of everything, one path of a lot of folks who are going from Dallas to Pennsylvania.
And whoever rents high-end RVs is probably going to make a killing out there.
And one thing we haven't talked about is Georgia, who won their game in what we would call a nail biter against Texas. Another overtime game, but Georgia's so dinged up, having a couple of weeks off for them might be the best thing that could have happened.
So have we gotten any update on their backups, the status of his injury as well? Because
haven't heard anything about Gunnar Stockton and
My
they
understanding,
actually looked better when he came in, to be honest.
they did, and the update that I read on right before we jumped on the show was that he's good to go, which surprises me considering how vicious that hit was.
Yeah, and the fact that they put in a gimpy guy to do it.
Well, they had
last
to.
handoff.
They had to. He lost his helmet.
Yeah.
And
Once your helmet comes off on the field, you have to go off the field for a play. It doesn't.
I'm shocked they didn't give a running back to hand that off again or something, just knowing that the guy's already injured and risking upping that.
Well, if you notice too,
Oh.
he handed the ball off with his left hand, and it was a play that ran on the left side of the line.
I'll tell you this: if Beck's able to play and recovers, he'll play.
Mhm.
He'll play. But Gunnar Stockton did look good in that offense. I thought he made some poor decisions, simply because he hasn't had time under center in an actual game situation. You throw him in second half of the SEC title game against Texas, which I thought Georgia's offensive line did a great job against Texas's defensive line and keeping them honest. And
Particularly in the second half.
particularly in the second half. I thought Texas got big plays on defense from the secondary, but a lot of that was poor decisions by Gunnar Stockton. But the way Georgia lived, the Georgia defense lived in the backfield of Texas most of the day was very impressive. And yeah, they get 2 weeks to heal. This is what I like about the Tennessee-Ohio State game. They didn't have to play in title games, and they're both elite teams. They got elite talent. They've had 2 weeks to prepare. They had a week just to chill, maybe do some basic stuff, and now they can put the game plan in. And to me, I think of the four, that is going to be the most entertaining game because of the elite talent that's out there. I know Ohio State's dinged up. Tennessee's got some issues as well. But you've got two programs, but Ohio State and Tennessee, especially Tennessee, they want to prove themselves nationally. Last time we saw Ohio State, they took it on the chin. Sorry, Marty, to that team up north. I'll use a Woody Hayes.
It's okay. They punch themselves.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Tennessee, they they kind of were not really heard from after they lost to Arkansas and Fayetteville. And here they are in the playoff. And so they want to reestablish themselves nationally. I think of the 4 first round games, that's the one I would again mortgage the house to go to the Horseshoe to watch that game because I think it's going to be the best of the 4.
Yeah, and Tennessee did beat Alabama at home. They took care of Diego and his Pavia.
Excuse me, sir.
You heard me.
I don't want to know about Diego and his Pavia.
And outside of the loss to Arkansas and outside of the loss to Georgia, they beat everybody they played pretty well. So
they played Georgia well in Athens. I mean, that was a great performance and didn't really hurt them as far as an at-large bid. I think the Alabama win is kind of what helped them along in their cause.
Oh, that was definitely a springboard for them. And that's why they're going to be dangerous. And I agree with what you said, Wilkie. I'm looking forward to seeing that game. The other games are interesting, but in a different way.
Well, I like the Clemson-Texas matchup because I think Clemson's quarterback right now is locked in and playing well. And he's got his receivers. I mean, they're in sync right now. Clemson's always going to have an elite defense. Texas played the extra game, lost. Where's their psyche going to be? How are they going to get up for a home game against Clemson? I mean, if there's a ripe for an upset, and usually when you get a 12-5, it's usually ripe for an upset in the men's basketball tournament, right? If you're going to get an upset, to me, this is the one that's kind of primed for one, because look, Clemson's just going to let it all hang. They're going to empty the playbook.
Excuse me, what?
And I think they've recovered themselves well after the initial game against Georgia. I really do. And here they are in the position to play for a national championship. So if there's a game that, you're looking for a big socking upset like you have in the men's basketball tournament, this 12-5 matchup could be it. I do like Clemson. Now my head tells me Texas is going to win. But again, maybe the redder shade of orange beats the burnt orange. I don't know. You're going to be OD'd on orange watching that game. That's for sure.
Guys,
my color down on that one.
Yeah, Clemson's got a lot of the same issue that we talk about with Penn State in that they don't win the big game. And I think that's the one thing that I would worry about in that matchup, Clemson rising to the occasion. Do you agree with me?
Well, it's always risky to play a team that people aren't respecting going in because they got nothing to lose and they tend to play a bit looser.
It didn't take long for the narrative to surface that the 5 seed is coveted because of the supposed easier path through. I mean, much like the Tennessee-Ohio State game, Clemson doesn't take a backseat to anyone from a talent perspective. I don't think
they pay as much as anybody else does.
Yeah, I don't think lining up against Texas is going to affect them in any way, and it just depends on who has it going that day. I would not be surprised at all if Clemson won. I agree with you, John Wilkerson.
Well, because you've got Cade Klubnik and the deputy Quinn Ewers. Just some background on this. Cade Klubnik played at Austin Westlake.
Yep.
And this is a rematch of a state title game from 2020 with Austin Westlake and Southlake Carroll. and you've got teammates of Klubnik's from Austin Westlake who stayed in town and are wearing the burnt orange. So you have the electric orange of Cade Klubnik and the burnt orange of his teammates. And like I said, the rematch of the Austin Westlake Southlake Carroll championship game from Jerry World in 2020. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Oh, my God. And now I know I'm going to hear all week from the DFW news that I'm going to be entrenched in.
And the thing is, look, Clemson still has a rather elite defense. How many times did Georgia live in Texas's backfield in the SEC title game? And Clemson's defense is a very similar makeup to Georgia's and pretty good talent as well. Now, if that's the case, I can see Clemson living in the backfield again and Quinn Ewers having to adjust and throw short passes. And again, Clemson's always been kind of known for their DBs, and they still got some really good DBs back there that are ball hawks. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. I think offensively, Clemson and Texas, it's pretty even. But if Clemson can get in the backfield like Georgia did, I think there'll be a very tight game in Austin, Texas, and a lot of uncomfortable Longhorn fans sitting in their luxury suites at DVR.
All right.
Okay, so all right, so Sly, I want you to see if you can guess who said this. All right, so Sly, here's the quote. Actually, it's a 280 character app screed, but I will defer and I will see if John Fox can guess who the individual was.
Paraphrase it.
No, I'll read it quickly. Disappointed with the outcome and felt we were one of the 12 best teams in the country. We had an extremely challenging schedule and recognized there were two games in particular that we did not perform as well as we should have. We have said that we would need to see how strength of schedule would be evaluated by the CFP. With this outcome, we will need to assess how many P4 non-conference games make sense in the future to put us in the best position to participate in the CFP. That is not good for college football. With that said, we do not need to hang our heads and now need to finish with this season strong. And then this individual mentions the bowl game that this particular team is going to play in. Who said that, Sly?
Lane Kiffin.
Close. Correct. Right conference.
Is
Move
it South Carolina?
Okay, well, you're getting closer. Go to the middle of that sandwich. An SEC sandwich. Who's in the middle of that sandwich that's not in the state of Georgia?
DeBoer.
Close. Greg Byrne, the AD.
Oh, got it.
Really?
The AD at the University of Alabama finished it. That said that we have a great group of young men who've led us with Coach DeBoer through the last year, and we look forward to our opportunity in the ReliaQuest Bowl. That's Greg Byrne on the 280 character app. Looking forward to the opportunity in the ReliaQuest Bowl.
What's the ReliaQuest Bowl?
I think it's a former Outback Steakhouse Bowl.
Yes, it is. It's the game in Tampa. And Marty, they play Michigan. Sensing the irony.
They want to see their second stringers play.
Mm-hmm.
The opt-out bowl.
That is the opt-out bowl. I think.
Yes.
I mean, it's interesting you bring that quote up, John, because it's much like the college basketball committee. There are teams that you'll not want to schedule specifically because you don't want to take a potential loss early in the year that could affect your playoff possibilities. I wouldn't schedule Boise again if I were Oregon, for example. So
maybe do 9 conference games.
Well, look what Georgia did this year. They played how many ranked teams?
But Texas did. They played no one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, what you're talking about with that quote, scheduling will be huge, and how each committee values.
He did book Mercer this year, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, but I think, Sly, to your point, I think that this is something we need to look at in the short term. How many buyouts are we going to see from the and rearranging of schedules are we going to see from the teams that are going to anticipate that they're going to be in the CFP? How many schedules are going to get rearranged now because of what has gone on with schedules and outcomes and committees and 12, which eventually we know it's going to head to 16, but right now it's 12. How many schedules get adjusted and how many games get changed with teams that want to be considered for CFP 12 as opposed to feeling they're left out because of non-conference and then losing twice to mediocre teams that were, 6-6.
That's already started.
I think it's going to be accelerated. You're going to have opt-out bowls. You're going to have individuals portaling sooner rather than later in mass.
They got to get that fixed. The having free agency before the end of the season is just insane.
Mm-hmm. So
having signing day before the end of the season is also insane.
Uh-huh. Well,
I mean, did you look at all these the coaches that had the week off look like they actually played in a bowl game? Ryan Day looked like he hadn't slept in 4 days. I'm trying to think who else I saw. Like everybody talking about the upcoming playoffs were all looked like they played a game, even the ones that didn't.
Because they were all out recruiting and try to figure out who they could flip and who they could have as a Merry Flipmas and who they were going to lose in the portal.
Yeah, and
props to Nike for giving a kid a shoe contract as opposed
guys,
to.
You got to look at this like a TV, kind of like launching a TV show from scratch. What it is the first year and what it's going to be 5 or 10 years down the line may not necessarily be the same thing. And to see the way things played out and some of the teams whining, like you just said, John, about strength of schedule, yeah, it's probably going to be an issue and it's going to change some things. I don't know that the portal's going to stay where it is long term, but we've never had this kind of a playoff setup before, so this is all new.
Yeah, who would have known the dynasty would have spinned off into the Colbys, for example? But it would be the conversation about Oregon, going back to this from a few minutes ago, having potentially the toughest path. That was always fascinating to me in the basketball tournament because you routinely have the region of death in that, and sometimes it doesn't work out that way at all. And Oregon, it may work out differently. Ohio State and Tennessee may bang each other up to the point that playing Oregon well rested. Oregon may have a big advantage. We don't know until the game's actually played, but
well-rested Oregon.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Well, this is
it's why you play the game.
Yeah.
But John, to go to your point there, in the NFL, they play the high seed gets to host the game, so they get a little bit of an advantage. All right, let's say Tennessee, Ohio State. The winner of that game moves on to the Rose Bowl to play Oregon. Well, Oregon's got no advantage here because the game's going to be at Pasadena. It's not going to be at Autzen. And Tennessee could be beat up, but they've got a game under their belt and they've got their timing down. While Oregon they've rested their players. They've had some the injuries have healed up, but they're going to come in somewhat cold in that game, and they're not going to be able to feed off the energy of being in their home stadium, being slept in their own beds, having the home fans there.
At least they'll be in their own time zone.
Yeah, they'll have that, but they're going from Oregon to Pasadena, where the weather will normally be perfect.
Yeah, I was going to say that's an upgrade.
So, what's the advantage of being the number one seed in the college football?
We're number 5. We're number 5. Literally,
we talked about this when this all first came up and they decided the format that they were going to use for this season. We talked about the fact that you're getting kind of penalized for being one of the top 4 seeds by not getting.
Your only benefit is a week off.
Mm-hmm.
It's your main benefit.
Mm-hmm.
And again, too, this may change.
Yeah, there's no way they're not going to change this to reseeding after the first round.
But I think part of this too, that what factors into this is the never-ending deference to bowl games.
Mm-hmm.
And they're doing this based around specific bowl games, so they get their quote-unquote big money games, rather than doing what's best for the schedule and what's best for this kind of a tournament.
It's just trying to keep tradition alive in a new format. That's all it is.
Tradition and sponsorship alive.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a reason you see Allstate behind every field goal.
Mm-hmm.
Will there be a trophy presentation for that particular bowl in the quarterfinals?
Yeah, and it's the whole reason it's taken us this many decades for us to get around to having this kind of a tournament. Is nobody wanted to upset the apple cart, or should I say the cash cow? Which
I was going to say the money bag.
games.
Money bag. But now you have networks that are throwing billions with a B at it, trying to program television shows and television networks with as much ancillary programming to satisfy their own sponsors as humanly possible. So it is now a 4-hour, if not a 4.5-hour event, as opposed to just a football game with a trophy presentation at the end. You do 3 of those in a day, that's 12 hours. That is half your day. That doesn't include any other ancillary programming that has to do with other networks, that has to do with analyzing what you just saw, with other broadcasts and other sponsorships and all these kinds of things. It is a three-dimensional, beautifully vertically integrated network broadcasting opportunity for the networks that are in charge of these bowl games.
So it's a Ponzi scheme and some way to get you to order food. Right? The field goal posts look like French fries.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty fair assessment.
I'm trying.
And Wilkie, I completely agree with you on all your points about the game in the Rose Bowl. And to me, maybe the most interesting part of all this is what the determining factors are throughout this first playoff year overall, whether it's rest, whether it's location, all these things to be determined.
I think really we talked about we kind of scratched the surface on this a little bit. I think it's different things for different teams.
Different things for different people.
I mean, we talked about for Georgia, I think the biggest thing for them is the fact that they get a break. But for a Clemson or Notre Dame or somebody like that, it may be the fact that they get to keep going because they've both been hot teams coming into this round robin tournament.
Well, maybe it evens out too, because really the only team in the quarter, or two teams in the quarters that I guess three really, three teams in the quarters that are just not getting a week off are SMU, Clemson, and Penn State. Having to play in their championship game. So I think that'll be a nice case study to see how those those three teams handle the first round. SMU and Penn State's going to be interesting because they both played in their title games and both lost.
And the ways that they lost too, especially with SMU losing at the last second, and Penn State losing basically in a shootout where the over happened halfway through the third quarter.
Yeah, I was surprised by that one.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to be competitive, and Penn State probably has the one hosting the game. It's probably going to be in the 20s or 15 degrees in State College, where when they play that game. So you got to give that advantage to Penn State. Clemson and Texas, obviously, well, I guess that's 4 teams. This keeps building as I try to click.
He's adding teams to his playoff analysis.
Yes. So again, 2 teams that lost, or one that lost, one that won their conference championship game. So I think we're going to see a case study about a team that can they make a deep run in this playoff without having a week off? Like Ohio State and Tennessee have, like the quarterfinalists have. I think that's where the case study again will be. But I think it's big that the teams that get to play these games at home on their home stadiums is a tremendous advantage for them at this level. And they're going to move on to neutral sites. Well, and again, why is the top 4 so important if you're going to play your game at a neutral site against a team that I know it's money. I know. But this is something they're going to have to solve. And I think it would make for a better playoff. Just think if Ohio State or Tennessee was coming to Autzen. I mean,
but you're not going to move the Rose
Bowl. A lot more cachet than it will be at the Rose Bowl. And I understand the Rose Bowl.
We did get one of those games earlier.
That's true. And we get a rematch and even be more cachet to that game.
And the idea, even though I was
an SEC school like Tennessee, go to Autzen, come on, that is huge.
Even what I said earlier, even though it was incorrect, have Penn State going to Boise.
That would have been amazing.
any big school like that going to the Smurf turf. Again, the storylines, just watching the aesthetics of that kind of matchup in late December for something on the line. I mean, that's kind of the intrigue of the NFL playoffs. And I think as this goes on for the next few years, will the committee see that? Are they smart enough to see, these neutral site games? Because now you're asking a lot of the fans to commit to 3 trips.
Well, they're not going to begin. They're not unless you're Sherwood Blunt and dealing with SMU. You're going to pick your trip. By the way, we do have actual early pricing, and none of this is football on a budget. By the way, it's
I wouldn't think so.
Football on a hell of a budget, actually. All right, so here's where we are right now.
Well, a new segment.
Yes. So here's where we are, and we even have prices to go all the way up to the championship game. So here's where we are, and this is not bowl season. This is specifically the CFP. We can play cliffhanger, guys, if you want. Notre Dame hosting Indiana. Just go ahead and blurt out a price. Notre Dame 851.5 Friday, December the 20th. What do you think?
$256.
$2,500.
How about $1,147?
Dude, you're cheating. You suck.
I wasn't too far off.
Fine. You're banned from guessing.
Well, I would have gotten the over in the
Close your browser window, Phil.
Yeah, close your browser window. $1,147 is the get-in right now at Touchdown Jesus for Indiana and Notre Dame. So then Saturday, December 21st, which is a triple header, 12, 4, and 8. Once again, 4-hour programming block. SMU at Penn State, Beaver Stadium. Hey, nice Beaver, thanks. Just had it stuffed. What's the get-in price?
$1,500.
$136 for the get-in right now.
It's because they haven't gone on sale from the Penn State Athletic Department yet. Same thing with Ohio State. Their starting price is $100. I've looked.
It's not quite the interstate battle that Indiana and Notre Dame is.
No, and it's Clemson at DKR, 4 o'clock Saturday, December 21st on TNT and Max back into their doubleheader. What is? Yes. All right. So go ahead and blurt out your get-in idea.
500.
364 right now.
Right now.
Right now, as we're talking, as we're taping Sunday afternoon, that's the get-in right now. 8 o'clock on the mothership and on ABC. So I'm guessing they're multicasting. Once again, 4-hour programming block, multiple networks, multiple ideas. Tennessee at Ohio State. What do you think? Ohio State 7.5, 47.5. What do you think the get-in is?
Well, if you log into the website this week, it's 100. But as soon as that window closes after a minute and a half, then they'll go up.
Yeah, I think that window's already closed.
No, they haven't gone on sale at the university yet.
307 on the secondary market right now.
How does that even work when a university hasn't sold their allotment? Is what I'm trying to figure out.
Right now, that's the get-in according to Secondary Marketplace. Now, Tuesday the 31st at Glendale for the matchup against Boise. Secondary market, what do you think the get-in is?
Well, that's going to go up substantially once you get the matchup. But right now, I'd got to say 500.
Yeah, 560.
225.
There's nothing else to do there. So
yes, true.
Actual price itself is probably $75, $80.
Marty, you can drive up to Prescott, go to Whiskey Row. It's close.
Uh-huh.
So if you take Sly's answer and Phil's answer and go in the middle, 160 is your get-in right now for Glendale and the Fiesta Bowl with Boise State. So the Peach Bowl, Arizona State hosting, the winner of the game that leads in their direction.
This is where they hope Clemson wins this game.
Yeah.
It was a game stopper.
Get-in price right now for the winner of the Clemson matchup against Arizona State. What do you think the get-in is?
Well, right now, it's got to be not too far off from the Fiesta Bowl. But if Clemson wins, it's going to be going up substantially. If Texas,
I think if Texas wins, it will too.
Not as much as the Clemson wins, because it's just a short drive down to I-85. and they're going to sap up every ticket there is. I don't see the ASU fans flocking to Atlanta when they've got a quarterfinal, a semifinal, possible semifinal game to go to. That might be closer in distance.
Sly, what do you think?
190.
Marty?
250.
So we said that the get-in in Glendale right now is 160.
I'm going to say 310.
Move
Yeah.
the decimal point.
150.
1740 get-in for Arizona State versus somebody. 1740.
That's
Right
a lot of
now.
money
Well,
for TBD.
Yeah, and actually, that shouldn't shock me just for the simple fact that the Peach Bowl does well locally. No matter who's playing in it, people buy tickets here locally in the Metro Atlanta area.
Well,
And so TBD and Arizona State get in is 1740. Rose Bowl, TBD versus Oregon. January 1st, 5 o'clock.
500.
All right.
480.
250.
Sly?
420.
Nice. 321 is
That's the Snoop Dogg Bowl price.
You stole that one from me, Marty. I was saving that one for later.
That's
The Gin and Juice Bowl.
That's next week when we go over the other bowl games.
Yeah.
So Oregon 321 versus TBD right now in the Rose Bowl. Sugar Bowl with Georgia playing TBD 8:45, probably more like 9 o'clock. TBD New Year's night 8:45. Georgia and TBD. What do you think?
At least
3 and a
5.
quarter.
500.
300.
Phil was half right. 162 get in right now for
Well, Sugar Bowl's the cheapest.
yeah. So the Sugar Bowl right now, Sugar Bowl is $2 more expensive. $2. I want my $2. $2 more than the Fiesta Bowl right now at 162. Then
This is
we
where we're coming to.
yeah. So the semifinals, Orange Bowl right now get in is 218. And the other semifinal at the Cotton Bowl right now is 247, Friday, January 10th at 7:30 Eastern Time.
I've got 6 of those.
Yeah, and I'd be willing to bet money that the should it be Notre Dame at Georgia playing in New Orleans at the Sugar Bowl, that price is going to go up exponentially.
Boy. Well, see, Marty could end up with in the semifinals. I mean, Marty could end up with one of those matchups, and I think that Marty, you said you've got 6.
Yes. Marty could end up with that, having to worry about his house or car payments this month.
Correct. Oh, which and I'll give
You have
you.
some left over for beer money.
I know, really. Well, and he's got a week to think
Good
about.
position.
How many other bowl games are you thinking about going to in the Dallas area? Even though you have a week to think about it before we
See,
talk
my
about it?
works, this whole playoff thing has screwed them all up. They're doing like the Armed Forces Bowl at like 4 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
The same thing with the First Responders Bowl. Shocker, UNT doesn't want to buy hotels, and they're going to play in that one.
Mm-hmm.
Why would they?
I don't know. Maybe so people that you try to get to come to your college get to go to a real bowl experience instead of staying in their dorm room.
Mm-hmm. Frisco.
You're invited.
Scooter's Coffee Frisco has Memphis and West Virginia, 9 o'clock on Tuesday the 17th.
Those were going for 70 last I looked.
Oh, wow. Then you have, and like I said, this is more next week's conversation about all the other bowl games. Fort Worth, the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces is Oklahoma and Navy. Sneaky good game, 3 o'clock on Friday, December 27th. So that one's a sneaky good one. I like that one. Sly can go to the Pinstripe at Yankee Stadium for BC and Nebraska. Noon on Saturday the 28th, and Sly's sitting there going, ain't no way in hell I'm leaving Syracuse to go see BC and Nebraska at Yankee Stadium.
Rather go to San Diego to see Syracuse and Washington State. So,
See? There you go, man.
yeah.
I can vouch for that trip.
Yeah,
I can't vouch for Snapdragon Stadium for football because they've had some field issues this year.
Yeah, my
But
boys
the stadium is a nice experience.
My boys are playing down in New Orleans at the the R&L Carriers New Orleans Bowl, I should say.
And you need to go to that one because that's a sneaky good matchup. Georgia Southern and Sam Houston, Thursday the 19th. That's sneaky good. That's a good one. Thursday night, December 19th. At 7.
I would love to. I will be out of the country on that
That's
day.
right. You are. That's right.
You heard it here first. Phil's deported.
Yes.
That's right. Well, December 27th, I plan on spending some time in Memphis, Tennessee for the renewal of the old Southwest Conference rivalry between Texas Tech and Arkansas in the Utterly Liberty Bowl.
Ooh, nice. So, like I said, yeah, that's next week's conversation.
Yeah, we got a lot of bowl games to go through next week, and we
Yeah,
can
man.
do that. Guys, what do you say we kind of I would say we put actually, you know what?
What?
We have some non-college football playoff or bowl games to talk about really quickly before we go.
Well, there's one big game we have to talk about that's played next week that we need to get people.
The coaching carousel has already fired up. We've got a new head coach at UCF, and he's just like the old coach. Scott Frost goes back to Orlando.
God.
I don't even know where he's been the last couple of years after he got fired at Nebraska.
He's been in the NFL the last few years as doing some quality control or
Doing pro bono work in the NFL.
something like that.
I hired a friend of yours. You owe me one.
Yeah, we'll see what Scott Frost 2.0 does in Orlando. I don't think Gus Malzahn left the cupboard very bare, very.
Well, but he did leave his buyout behind, so he could go ahead and leave and go to Florida State. Yay!
Frost was on the LA Rams coaching staff this year.
And the carousel's already picking up steam. Barry Odom is making his way to the Big Ten. He took the job at Purdue, and was arguably one of the worst teams in college football this season. And this is after Odom really kind of breathed some life into UNLV, which you could argue might be a better job right now.
I'm deferring to.
He was going to be the hot coaching commodity. It's just whether who's going to get him. Purdue got him, which I find very interesting because Purdue likes innovative offensive coaches. You think of Jeff Brom, you think of Joe Tiller, you think of these offensive minds that have succeeded in Purdue, and they get a defensive-oriented coach in Barry Odom. I'm curious to see who his offensive coordinator is going to be. And I think that'll play a lot of weight into whether it's a good hire or not.
Kevin Wilson's looking for a job.
True. But I just find it real interesting that Purdue, they're going after the shiny new toy, and he's a defensive guy.
And go ahead, Mr. Fox.
Later in the season, I would say that Ryan Walters officially looked beleaguered on the sidelines, but Barry Odom has a rough job in front of him because with Indiana doing what they're doing and Illinois recruiting better, it's not easy pickings getting recruits in those two states anymore. So
and Purdue's not easy to get into either.
Right. Tough sledding for him in a tough league. Well, I don't wish him the best, that's for sure.
Looking like a true B1 year, no doubt.
Yeah. And here's a carousel move that I find fascinating. Just hours after winning the Sun Belt Conference Championship, Charles Huff of Marshall leaves to take the job at Southern Miss. And there's been rumors that Huff had been battling with the Marshall leadership, but that doesn't seem like a step up for a guy who had a lot of success in Marshall.
No, it's not.
I think that move tells you it was more than a rumor.
Uh-huh. I mean, what Southern Miss has gone through in the last handful of years, it just has not been good. And so legitimately, when the Hattiesburg American posts on the front page that Charles Huff is the new head coach, replacing Will Hall, I mean, they went 1-11 last season. Reed Stringer, Will Hall fired on October 20 in the middle of his fourth year. Reed Stringer was the interim for the final 5 games. They go 1-11. AD Jeremy McClain said they were focused on finding a dynamic leader who could get our program back to competing for championships. Proven he's a winner who can build a championship culture in the Sun Belt. Look forward to supporting him in our journey to the top. Capital T, capital T, capital T. I'm guessing that's going to be their new catchphrase, to the top. But so Huff was paid $755,000 a year at Marshall. Contract set to expire at the end of January anyway. So he was at the end of a deal. And
But they offered him an extension and he turned it down.
yeah, so I'm thinking that there was stuff going on in Huntington that forced him to just rethink the whole thing and go, do I want to have to deal with all this ish and go and rebuild a program that was 1-11, and it ends up being the latter, which I find interesting, intriguing, and it makes you want to ask why.
Yeah. It's interesting, and Marshall didn't waste any time. They hired North Carolina State defensive coordinator Tony Gibson to take over for Charles Huff.
Wait, so North Carolina State defense.
Yeah, that.
Hired that.
Not sure why he would have been. Well, I shouldn't say that. An interesting choice for a team that wasn't exactly world beaters this year.
What I'm saying. So, yes, intriguing. Thank you, sir. Yes.
And the coaching carousel, it's only just begun.
Of course. Army Navy before we get out of here.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, what about Bill Belichick rumors at North Carolina?
They're,
what would be funny if Belichick went to Ohio State, if Ohio State goes out in the first round just to troll Tom Brady.
That would be good.
Oh my God, it'd be hysterical.
It was interesting. I read today that part of the whole conversation with Belichick in North Carolina is the premise that if he took the job, it would be under the condition that his son Stephen would end up taking over for him.
Yeah,
Coach in waiting.
Yeah,
Yes,
I mean,
that's the whole premise of his trying to get another job. So he wants to groom his son Steve to be a head coach.
Yeah.
Good coach, good dad.
So
you jettison 73-year-old Mac Brown and
the
you bring-
72-year-old Bill Belichick, who wants to eventually have his son be the new head coach.
So
Brian Ferentz, where are you?
Yeah, but if they do that, you at least you got Bill Belichick as the hanging in the background as the
Corporate
background
overlord?
GM.
Yeah, the corporate overlord, yes.
Pulling the
so my
strings.
friends in the Carolina media, I can't wait to see him go to a press conference with Belichick as a head coach.
We're moving on to NC State.
It would be really interesting to see that, and it would, in a lot of ways, it would be kind of a sparkle life that the ACC could really use.
Mark your life and Bill
Make this
Belichick.
happen.
That seems mutual exclusive to me.
Oh,
Sparkle Life and Bill Belichick. Now when you want Sparkle Life, that's Snoop Dogg.
oof.
True.
Spark of life. Bring in Deion Sanders in North Carolina.
Oh, you fall.
It ain't gonna happen, no, but come on.
No, and does Coach Dion even stay at Colorado after this season with his son graduating?
Wasn't he just lobbying the Raiders this week too?
Well, if it's gonna be any place, you know that Jarrett's gonna want to bring him in, or it's gonna be a match race for Tallahassee. One of the two. It's either the pros or he goes to Florida State. Juju Lewis would then portal with him from Colorado, and everybody would go from Colorado to Tallahassee. And then for however many seasons, Jarrett would continue to be frustrated with whoever the new head coach is after Mike McCarthy. Then that's when Deion would make the jump from Florida State to go to the Dallas Cowboys. Then you draft Juju Lewis and everybody else that was with you at Florida State as a part of this process, and you build your roster that way.
So as an FSU alum, are you kind of nudging that Deion needs to come home?
No! No!
Are you saying Florida has enough car salesmen?
It would be
Goodness
interesting.
gracious.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the four of you for giving me a collective migrine. I really
It would completely change the image of FSU.
Yeah, talk about bringing some headlines.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Nelson, you and I have been on the inside of FSU athletics, so
Mm-hmm.
we know how it operates.
Yeah.
It would,
Look. I know
Sure.
I know the story behind how Deion became number 21. I know that story in the pros. I watched him on draft day come up with this decision. I know how this works. He is going to go from Colorado to the Dallas Cowboys. Guaranteed.
Okay.
Too much money, too many marketing opportunities, and you can bring players with you as undrafted free agents. The UDFAs that he could bring in to turn that roster over, Jarrah would just see the marketing dollars and would pay Dion whatever. He probably would end up paying Dion a portion of the team by the time they were done. Just saying.
Okay.
Just saying. Can we talk about Army Navy?
Sure.
Yes.
Army Navy, go.
2 words, Bryson Daly.
Yep. Bryson Daly coming to the OSG Sports annual s'mores convention and fireside chat. Absolutely. He's definitely one of the 5.
The question in this game is, how many times is he going to get in the end zone?
Yeah, he scored 4 touchdowns this past weekend, and as Army is your American Athletic Conference champion.
Wasn't it cool to see a conference championship game at Mikey?
I like it.
Even though they're totally rebuilding the place. And
I like him on
fans
Mikey.
behind the Tulane bench were gone.
Mm-hmm. I like him on Mikey. Absolutely true.
I'll take the under in total passing yards in the Army Navy game.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is that a
That
bet
game will
they'll
be
even
over
book
with in
though?
2 hours.
Oh,
Yeah, I would be surprised to see if Army passed the ball more than 5 times the entire game.
No. Wrong. I feel
I don't even think they're going to take that bet on that game for passing yards.
no.
It'd be will there be a pass? Yes, no, kind of a bet.
Yeah, there will be passes.
It'll be part of a prop bet somewhere.
Well, especially in the fourth quarter when one of the teams is behind by more than 1 score, and then they're going to have to pass and get a long touchdown pass, and everything gets exciting, and they're within the number. Right now, Army 5.5, 40.5, and the game at Raljon, or in Raljon, which is now apparently Northwest Stadium.
Yeah.
Even though it's in the northeast suburbs of Washington, D.C. Get in price only $177 for Navy and Army.
I'll
What
go
do
to
you
that
guys
game
doing?
if it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
What are you guys doing this weekend? You want to head to?
I'm taking Army.
Yeah, I'm taking Army. I like the point.
I think they cover too.
I think they cover, and I think they go north of the 40.5. I think it's literally 41. It's probably 24-17.
Nice.
I want to take Army, and according to a West Virginia publication, Jeff Monken is one of the top choices to be the head coach of West Virginia.
Ooh.
I wouldn't do that.
Big 12 team running a triple option.
Stay.
Looks like it's between him and Rich Rodriguez.
Rich Rod going home. Sly, what do you?
Well, I liked your impression of McLaughlin there that you just did. I would pay to see you bring back Jack Germond and Eleanor Cliff for the Nelson Group. I think that would be wildly entertaining.
Morton Kondrakaraki. Jack Jamondo. Yeah, no, it's just Jeff Monken. If Monken goes to West Virginia, wrong. Get Rich Rod back. But the thing is that Rich Rod looks like he's happy being left alone at Jacksonville State. Why would you go back?
No, a good thing when you got it. You're already a millionaire.
It's like, look, you're left alone. You can create in the Fun Belt. You can do your thing. You can go to bowl games, second tier. You be successful. You have your own little slice of life. Why put yourself back in that heater?
Recognize when you are where you belong.
Why would you go back to a place where people set sofas on fire for amusement and recreation?
Well, he is in Jacksonville, Alabama.
But I think that
There are other things on fire.
There's not a whole lot of difference between rednecks and hillbillies.
But I don't think that they casually just set fire to furniture. As ways
that remark, by the way,
as ways to be angry. They don't dispose of furniture through flame in Jacksonville, Alabama, I don't think. Don't go, Rich Rod.
Yeah, it's because their couches are attached to their house.
Wow.
This is deteriorating quickly.
Guys, we need to wrap this up quickly.
You better wrap this shit up.
Area before my house gets run over by white trash.
All right, for Brother Marty.
I'm muting my microphone.
Brother Wilkie and Brother John. I am Brother Phil. We are part of the OSG Sports College Football Team. Thanks for sticking with us and tuning in, everybody. Have a great week, and let's enjoy some college football fun in December. Bye-bye.
Please like and subscribe.